My name's Jade Zimmer, and today I'll be presenting on preparing for artificial intelligence. In this presentation, we're going to go over what is artificial intelligence, what are the benefits and constraints to businesses for using artificial intelligence, what ethical dilemmas become because of the use of artificial intelligence, and we're going to take a biblical perspective on artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a broad category ranging from small, everyday technologies like Siri on iPhones and the Amazon Alexa in households, to Amazon robots that help deliver packages worldwide, and even artificial intelligence being used literally out of this world with SpaceX. Some scholars define it as any technology that tries to replicate human intelligence and sees them as smart machines. There are many similarities between artificial intelligence and technologies, which we'll discuss later on in this presentation. Artificial intelligence versus technology. Many people use these synonymously, replacing the word technology with artificial intelligence or vice versa, but there are big differences between the two. To start, most technologies use if-then-else binary fashions, which means they're programmed in if-then-else ways, and they learn how to read these codes and do those different scenarios, which can be true for artificial intelligence, but it does take it one step more. With artificial intelligence, they use image recognition, and they use this to execute human capabilities. One example is a self-driving car, which is a gray area of the two, because self-driving cars do use image recognition to view like stop signs, let's say, for example, or lines on the road, to see where they're going and then when they should come to a complete stop. But some say that it's not necessarily artificial intelligence based on their capabilities and what kind of technologies they use. The history of artificial intelligence kind of depends on what one considers technology and what one would consider artificial intelligence. The term artificial intelligence first came about in 1956 at a conference at Dartmouth College, where scientists were optimistic and excited about the future. Quoted by Lewis. Decades later, here we are, still trying to develop robots who imitate human interactions, including household chores, big tasks like driving, trying to get humans to the moon and to live on Mars, etc. And even just trying to replicate thought processes and behaviors. Since then, since 1956, when it was first coined a term, we've seen artificial intelligence win a global chess competition in 1997 when they beat a chess grandmaster. He was Russian and he was grandmaster of the world, which means he was the reigning champion, and he was beat by a robot. In 2011, artificial intelligence won a popular game show, Jeopardy! It's able to do this because artificial intelligence is really good at complex things. Like, it doesn't use the modern if-then commands like technology does, but it takes it even further and is just constantly running codes, which is why it is so good at Jeopardy! In hypotheticals like chess. There are many challenges to artificial intelligence. One of the biggest ones is cost. It's monetary, resource, and risk costs that we're talking about here. So to start, monetary costs are really high at the beginning when companies start to incorporate artificial intelligence. They don't see the ROI benefiting them, their return on investment, so they don't necessarily want to invest in the artificial intelligence because they don't want to pay for it right now, and not see the long run benefits of it, or it's really just not a good fit for the company, so it's better to use that money elsewhere. Since artificial intelligence is so new in the grand scheme of things, and we don't really know too much about it quite yet in like comparing it to others, it's going to be really expensive for businesses, and just determining whether that is a good fit for your company and whether it's worth it is important for the higher up decision makers. Additionally, it requires a lot of resources, whether that's sending help elsewhere, outsourcing this, or hiring, like we've talked about in this class, making your own IT department so that they can help ease the transition. It's a big decision for company, and it's going to require a lot of resources no matter which decision they make, and a lot of money, which are two very important factors to companies. So that's a big decision maker as well. Finally, the risk involved. If the risk does not help the reward, or if the higher ups don't see the risk as worth it, then that's something they need to be mindful of, since it is so expensive and so new and maybe potentially not beneficial for your company. So that'll be a big decision maker. Finally, another challenge with artificial intelligence is there is so much data that needs to be collected in order to use it, since they're constantly running codes, and artificial intelligence cannot thrive if it does not have data to make its decisions based off of. So if the company doesn't have too much data, then artificial intelligence will not be beneficial. With all that being said, artificial intelligence is beneficial to companies for a few other reasons. It has the potential to increase efficiency, mostly because artificial intelligence can work around the clock. In contrast to humans, the computers and the technology does not get tired. It can work 24/7, and it doesn't have OSHA violations or anything, so they can work longer than 8-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts. They don't need to take bathroom breaks, lunch breaks, any of that. It's just constantly working and constantly running codes. With that going said, if the artificial intelligence is coded correctly, it will work without flaws. However, that is if it is coded correctly. If there's something wrong in the code, then all of it is shot and it will hurt the company. But if it's coded correctly, it's flawless. In the end, also, it can lower long-run costs because artificial intelligence, I hate to say it, but it can replace jobs. And with a high startup cost, then in the end, they won't be having to pay salaries or labor costs. It will just be that artificial intelligence startup cost. Artificial intelligence comes with a multitude of ethical issues. A few we're going to talk about are privacy concerns and job replacements. One quote that I loved from our textbook was, "When organizations cede some or all decision making in an area to AI, they are going to have to address a number of legal and ethical issues related to privacy, accountability, governance, responsibility, and decision-making transparency, as well as a host of social policy considerations." One of the big things that is going on in our day and age is data collection and the privacy concerns that come with that. There are a multitude of privacy concerns, which I talked about in my paper. Just basically, if the consumer is aware and they make themselves less vulnerable, and on the other side, if the businesses are more transparent with their consumers and let them know what's going on, then we can avoid these privacy issues, and we can have a little bit of help from both sides just to make it easier and just more aware. The other ethical issue is the job replacement, which we saw in the history with the Industrial Revolution, just how AI is going to replace jobs, the easier jobs. But I think with this, it opens up new jobs and more job creation in terms of fixing the AI when it goes down, and coding, and just opens up more opportunities. As mentioned earlier, there are many privacy concerns, and artificial intelligence is nothing without data, and we do not have data unless we have consumers to collect data on. So data collection can be seen as an invasion of privacy. But I believe that data collection and personal privacy can coexist with the collaboration from businesses and consumers together. I kind of talked about it in the last slide, but if businesses are transparent with their consumers and consumers are diligent in the data that they're giving away, then the two can coexist, and there can be data collection also with privacy. It's hard to say what Jesus would have said about artificial intelligence because technology didn't really even exist other than the basic pulley systems and different construction sites, but they didn't have the Internet of Things or computers when Jesus was walking the earth, right? My understanding of it is he would have been fine with it as long as we didn't idolize artificial intelligence and as long as we used it to benefit God and help glorify God. We're called not to worship idols, and I think so often our phones can be considered idols because I know myself personally, I spend a lot of time on my phone when I could be using that, reading my Bible or praying for others. Right? So, not idolizing artificial intelligence. Second, as long as we use it to glorify God and help share the gospel and even just show how Jesus loves others, I think that would be beneficial. So, as long as we're using artificial intelligence to benefit and not idolizing it, then I think it's okay. This is my list of references that I used in this presentation, and the next slide continues it. Thank you so much.